Okay. Good morning. Sorry. Before we begin our tefillah and brachos courses, quickly mention something that I looked into last week, end of last week. It has to do with Hilchos Shabbos, but it came out quite interesting. We know that our dear friend of our Kihila, Ami Ochayon, who owns the Aquacaf on the Kinneret, he's very careful about keeping Shabbat, even though it's a big trial, because a lot of these types of fun activity places that's on the water, unfortunately, a lot of them work dafka during Shabbat. They have their best clients, busiest day, right? So he's been keeping Shabbat all the years, and Baruch Hashem, he's very successful with having the rest of the week filled totally with hundreds and thousands of people coming. Recently, last week actually, he asked me a question that is another trial for him with regard to keeping Shabbat. He needs some maintenance done, and sometimes heavy work, heavy maintenance. Especially now, a few weeks ago, there was this very strong storm up there, up north, and it ruined a lot of his a lot of the equipment. Right? Yeah, right. So the question was, now work can't be done during the week because people are there all week long, all hours of the day. People using the traktia. So can the work be done by Arabs, totally non-Jewish workers, on Shabbat? Maintenance work. So there are two issues that have to be discussed in this case. One is the fact that we mustn't ask even before Shabbat, we mustn't ask a goy to do something for us during Shabbat. And even if they do it on their own, if they know what we need and they do it without us asking them to, or we hint, by hinting, we're allowed to do that even during Shabbat, saying it's very dirty here, it's very messy here, this thing is broken, and they understand what to do. It's still problematic because we can't benefit from what a goy does for us on Shabbat. So we can't benefit from the job they do. So from that point of view, there's a way to solve the issue, and that is by allowing them to work all week long at times when they can. When can that be? During the night. In the nighttime, no one's there. So they can have strong projectors that light up the place, and they work during the night. It's inconvenient, but it's possible. So if you tell them you can work all nights of the week or Shabbat, and they choose to work on Shabbat, then you're not benefiting from what they from their work on Shabbat, because that's already their decision. It's for their comfort. The goy decides it's best for him to do it that way. You wouldn't care less if you would come during the night. For you, it's the same. So you're not benefiting from the fact that he does it on Shabbat. You're benefiting from the fact that he did the job. He could have done it on the weekday. It's for his convenience that he decided to do it on Shabbat. So that's okay if that's a solution. So I asked him, is it really possible? So he says yes, because and before he asked the question, he didn't want to break the laws, the halachot. So he invited them to come one night during the week, and it worked fine. But it's still inconvenient. They would much prefer to come during the day on Shabbat. So if it's doable, then it's considered that he really is giving them an option, and they decide to do it a different way, which wouldn't be permissible, but it is allowed because they have a different option to do it permissibly. That's similar to if a person has a goyish maid at home to wash their dishes, let's say. So as long as they provide the utensils that are allowed to be used on Shabbat for washing dishes, if they choose to use a sponge, that's okay. Even though that's a violation of Shabbat, it's for their convenience, right? Exactly. Or if it's dark in the kitchen where they need to wash the dishes and they turn the light, it's for their convenience. So all that is okay. So from that point of view, it could have been done. But we have another issue. Right, exactly. Mari sign. The issue is that when you have in a public area and outdoors a guy doing work for a Jew, and it's known to everyone that the house or this operation is owned by a Jew, then it would seem to people as if the Jew hired the non-Jews to work on Shabbat. They don't know this whole love this issue of being able to come on during the week at night, and they chose to work on Shabbat. They think we hired them to come on Shabbat, to work on Shabbat, and that's our allowed. If it's in public, if it's visible to all, and it's known to everyone that this place is owned by a Jew, it can't be done because of Mari sign. Exactly. When they dig those tunnels, when they dug those tunnels for the train. Maintenance work even? Right. So it's the same issue because it's owned by Jews, it's owned by the state, and right, that makes a problem. That's what creates the problem of them working on during Shabbat. It's the same exact reason why we can't have our workers who are building a home, let's say, for a Jew, and everyone knows it's a Jewish-owned home. They can't build on Shabbat. They would prefer to continue work during Shabbat, but we can't do that because it's as if, in that case, it's really hiring them to work on Shabbat because they work all week long plus Shabbat. So it's really not instead of, it's not choosing this or that, it's doing this and that. It's actually benefiting on Shabbat. But if, let's say, we tell them you have one day off and you choose which day you want to take off, so they could choose Sunday, Monday to Friday and work on Shabbat, but they can't do that because of Maritain. That's why they have to stop working on Shabbat. Anyway, it would be very noisy to the neighbors if they continue their construction work on Shabbat, and it's very bothersome. Dafka during Shabbat, bothersome all week long, but we can't help it. At least Shabbat, we need the quiet. Anyway, so to try to get around this issue of the Maritain problem, someone suggested, when I spoke about this in the Kollel, someone suggested putting up a sign, making everyone aware of the fact that the Goyim are working here because of their convenience. They could have done the job during the nights of the week, and they decided to work on Shabbat. Put up a sign explaining to people all of that. Has to be a big sign with many words, but you're telling everyone that that's the reason they're working on Shabbat. So then it would be, it could have solved the issue of Maritai, because then everyone would be aware of the fact that they weren't hired to work on Shabbat dafka necessarily. That's one way. And the other option we thought of was that Abi Ochayon himself would take in a Goyish partner, a non-Jewish partner in the entire business. Right, that's what you do overseas over time. Exactly, all the time. You have a Goyish partner for your business, and then the business continues to work on Shabbat. Of course, hopefully non-Jews who work on Shabbat, hopefully. And he takes the profit from 1/7 of the profit he gets to take for himself. Exactly. That's how it's done all over. So that could have been done the same here. But the big difference may be that in Chutz La'aretz, it's known that that's how it's done, and people have, and it's visible to all that it's owned by so-and-so, Reuven Cohen, and John Gray. So you see, it's all around. Oh, so you could put up a sign to say that it's owned, this Aquakef is owned by Abi Ochayon plus Muhammad, and then it could be known to everyone, right? So the issue with that is that the halacha doesn't allow, as the business is already running, to accept a partner. It has to be that you start the business at the very beginning of the business with a partner. Because otherwise they say it's like harama. It's like a false thing. that you're doing just for halachic purposes. If you have it from the beginning, profit, yeah, but again, people don't know that. It has to be that it's known to all. Karmayitayin is the issue of what people see. Aha. That, okay, so that we don't mind that there is such a thing as our partners, but in this case, they have to be known because of the work being done on Shabbat. Meaning, I understand what you're saying. Say they started from the beginning, but it wasn't known. And now, but here by Ochayon, he had no other partners when he built the business. So in this case, he can't take it. So what does he have to do? He has to shut down the business and reopen it with a goy and give the profit, a seventh of the profit. And it's not going to work, exactly. So I discussed this matter both with Rav Fil Malka and with Rav Yaakov Ariel. So Rav Fil Malka said that regarding the idea of them being able to work during the nights of the week and them choosing Shabbat, that's fine. That's a good solution. But regarding the Marisayin, he said to put up a sign that they're working just because they chose to work on Shabbat, that we don't accept, because he says otherwise the poskim would have given that solution. For all construction work to be done on Shabbat, they never met, none of the poskim ever said you could put up a sign that they chose to work on Shabbat and then continue all the work. So if you don't find it written anywhere, most probably doesn't work because it's not such a brilliant idea that no one thought of. Yeah. Right.
I've never been at my it's not near any.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's a little remote. It's outside of Tveria. It's across the street from Tveria, but it's a little remote. Okay, I just say a point, just repeat it for the Zoom ladies. Jordy is saying that maybe the postka didn't suggest such an idea because usually the construction work that has to be done in a home, someone's home or apartment, bothers everyone around. The environment gets disturbed, so that's why they didn't suggest such a thing. But now that this place is remote, is far from actual civilians, suburban area, so it should be, it could be a solution. Yeah, I see your point, but the poskim should have suggested from purely an halachic aspect, purely halachic, without the disturbing. The disturbing is something that's outside of halacha. That's something that's a ben adam lachavera sort of. Just be nice, don't bother your neighbors. But from the point of view of Ma'it Ayin, it should have suggested this can be done. If you have everyone around you, mochel, they're all okay with it. They're all, they agree that the work can be done on Shabbat. So then what? Or if it's a Jewish non-religious area, so they don't mind it at all. They do their own, maybe. They may have their own construction work being done on Shabbat. They're not religious. If it's amongst Goy, by the way, you're allowed to do it anyhow, because there's no Maritain. But if it's only amongst Jews, you're not allowed to. Anyway, he said that this isn't a good solution. I think also because people may walk by the aqua cafe in a place where the sign isn't there. It's only on the other side of the aqua cafe. And then they have to be all around. Yeah, it's a whole mess. And again, it's not something that the poskim suggested. And the other thing about having a goyish partner, so he didn't even go into the details. He said, he says this special Jew has kept Shabbat so beautifully, so well, and so comfortably, and now you want to find all kinds of loopholes. And the Shabbat has kept him going so nicely and has blessed him with his business to go so amazingly well. Let it be. Let him keep Shabbat totally without any loopholes and such ideas. Let them work during the night of the weekdays. Better that way than getting into all these loopholes. Okay. A 7. Right.
So would it be that different for him to close it one day, be able to do all this work? Would it not be the same loss of
right, right, right. Even you say during the week to close it one day.
But he's saying that he's kept that so amazing until now. And if even considering that option, he understands what the loss is.
Right.
And could he just close for a couple of days and
just do all the work? That's also true. That you don't gain anything by having a goyish partner and giving him the profit. So with the profit, instead of that, just close for a day during the week and you do the work. That's also true. From the business angle, it works the same, right? The same difference. Yeah. So that's why the suggestion was not to do anything about, not to have it done on Shabbat. And Rav Yaakov Ariel was more lenient about having a partner, but he said it has to be done silently. The work has to be as silent as possible, so people aren't aware of it, and because they're not aware of the fact that he has the partner, so it has to be as silent as possible, and he gets the profit. It became very complicated. Right. One person sees, he tells everyone. Right. Aha. They may say, what's good? You're right. For your needs, you can do anything, but for us, to please us, you're not doing it. Right. Correct. So I wrote to him that it's better to leave it alone, leave the Shabbat be, and have him do the work during the week. If he has to close one day, he'll close one day, or during the night. Right. Because again, he's keeping Shabbat. Right. Exactly. Right. We believe in that totally. Right. Okay. Now we'll go to our tefillah session. Actually, he didn't respond yet to the SMS. So, no, he's so busy. I know he's very, very busy. When I first had to get back to him about something else, it's so difficult to reach him because Baruch Hashem, these are his busiest days of the year. During the 3-4 months of the year, that's all it works. The rest of the year doesn't function. It's too cold to go into the water. So, and people are at work and school. These are the months that he has all the heavy business for us. Okay. We'll go continue our tefillah. We're beginning now a new bracha. We finished the Ala Tzadikim last week. We'll start the new bracha. VeliYerushalayim yircha berachamim yitashuv. This, if you remember, we said that the first 6 within the 13 requests of the Shmoneh Esrei, the 13 brachos, blessings and requests, we have 6 and 6 and 1. The first 6 had to do with our life right now and more like on an individual basis, but for the collective, meaning the individual needs, but for all. So we all need refuah, we all need parnasa, we all need slicha v'kapara, we all need wisdom, we all need chazara b'tshuva, we all need geula from our private difficulties, challenges, all that. Those are the 6 that had to do with each and every one of us personally, now, these days, before the final geula, and for all, because it's in plural tense. Lach lanu, ve'onyenu, shiveinu, all that is in plural tense. The next 6, the following 6 brachos, have to do with the final redemption. They're the stages of the final redemption. They spell out how the final redemption will actually occur. If you see that the way the brachos are structured, we understand what's going on in our days. The first one of the 6 is Tkabe Shofar Gadol Lechirotenu V'Sad Nes Lekabetz Galuyotenu. And that's exactly how it started. It all started with gathering of the Jewish people back to their homeland. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when the Zionism movement began, people started returning to our homeland. That's the very first sign of the Geulah, the final redemption. We're still in the process. Well, coming not enough, but they're still coming. So that's the first bracha. And what is the shofar gadol? We mentioned it when we learned this bracha. Shofar gadol means an awakening call. It doesn't have to be like a blowing of the shofar. It doesn't mean literally so. It could be that the final will have a shofar blown, but in this bracha, it's definitely not the meaning. The meaning is, as Rav Kook explains very beautifully, that shofar gadol means an awakening from within. People will feel inside them the urge to come live in Israel, more so than it was ever before. And why is it shofar gadol? What's the gadol versus katan versus benoni? So he says the gadol is referring to the fact that people want to make aliyah, want to come back to their homeland because of the correct reason. And that is not because they're thrown out of their lands where they are, and not because they have a secular national reason, like the Tzionut Chilonit, rather because for religious reasons. They want to live in Israel because they know it's the chosen land and it's where a Jew must live according to Torah. That's the shofar gadol. Their urge, their draw towards Israel is based on religious reasons, spiritual reasons. They feel the holiness of the land, and that's why they want to live in it. So those are the three possibilities. They're all okay as long as Jews come here and live in Israel. They're all okay. But the best possible way is for the chatchila is when a person is drawn to Israel for religious reasons. Then we had the Ashiva Shofteinu, where we're still struggling with that. Already, the second bracha of the sequence of the order of things is not working out too well yet, but Bezat Hashem will happen. That the legal system, the judges, will rule by Torah mitzvos, rule by Hashem's commandments, and not by secular law, which is mainly what goes on today. Unfortunately, most of the legal system in Israel is based on secular law and based on Goyish law, laws that come from America, from Britain, from Turkey yet. We still have some remaining laws from the Turkish Empire and some German law, and it's all mixed from many types of legal systems in the world, but barely anything coming from the Torah. Fortunately, it's most neglected within the legal system in Israel. That's another level. There are, by the way, more and more Batei Din Rabbanim in Israel for unfortunately divorce issues. It's always been the religious courts that take care of divorce in Israel, but now monetary issues, there are more and more. Right, this is one around, but they're all together. Many of them all over the country that rule by Torah law. It's just that people have to be aware of the fact that they exist and to use them, because many times people. Correct. But at least if you're the one suing, you should choose to go to a Beit Din Rabbani. If the other side doesn't want to come and they send 3 invitations, one to the other to come to court, and they don't want to come, then the Beit Din Rabbani gives you a permit called Ktav Siruv. You get a permit, written permit, to go sue the person in civil law, in the civil court. And then you're allowed to, according to halacha. Then halacha allows you to go to civil court. You don't have to lose your money, give up what's owed to you just because the other side doesn't want to come to a religious court. So you get the permission to go to a civil court, and then you can't refuse because they have the police make sure that he appears in court. Okay, and then we have the 2 brachos that are joint brachos, which are back to back, that the evil people and the and the cruel and bad people should be demolished off the face of the earth, and our enemies, they should all die, or at least not be wicked, not be bad. And from the other side of the same coin, that the righteous people, the holy people, and the truthful people go by who are led by the truth should receive rewards and should have a good life and so on and so on. Those are the brachas we've done till now. We're in the midst of this process. It's definitely obvious that these years of our national existence, we're definitely involved in the process of Geula. We're just trying to progress more and more, make more and more progress within the process. Now, the two last brachos, actually they're both short ones, the two last brachos before Shema Koleinu, which is like the 13th, but the two last brachos of the 6th that have to do with the final Geula are VeliYerushalayim Yecha B'Chamit Hashuv and Tzemach David Abdecha Berat Hatzmiach. Those are the final situations where we're hoping for them to come as soon as possible. The first one is that the city of Yerushalayim should be built, and not only physically. It's physically, Baruch Hashem, being built amazingly. Every time you go to Yerushalayim, you see how much more is being built and created, and it's unbelievable. It's definitely preparing itself. The city is preparing itself for Aliyah L'Regel. There's so many Jews to come for Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, that it needs to be larger and larger and more transportation possibilities to get to the city. I can't imagine just the traffic to get to Aliyah L'Regel. It's just unbelievable. And now they're having more and more streets going, narrow ways. Right. Oh, yeah.
Now,
wow.
Because they built an extension and for it to be connected.
You need to do it.
All being closed
Wow. So you mean Mashiach can't come in these next 2 months because we won't be able to get around. Yeah. Right. Yeah, they're always doing construction in Yerushalayim, always. As is, it's so much traffic there. So imagine on Aliyah L'Regel, it's impossible. But there's going to be hopefully some miracle that work out. Anyhow, but this bracha here includes much more than the physical building of the city. Much more than that. So I'll read word for word. VeliYerushalayim ircha berachamim tashuv. There are two options that Hashem will return, sort of speaking, to our land, to the land of Israel, and to Yerushalayim, which means to make it holy with Hashem's presence, the Shekhinah, to dwell in Yerushalayim like it used to in the days of Beit HaMikdash and the Nevi'im, the prophets, and the kingdomship of Malchut Beit David and all that. So it was an amazing time when we were shining and glowing to the entire world. So the Shekhinah to return back to its hometown, to Yerushalayim, there are two ways. There's berachamim and there's bedin. Rachamim would mean that in a merciful way, Hashem will do it gently, which means it's going to take more time. The price we pay for Hashem to come down gently back to Yerushalayim is that it takes more time because it's done slowly in a process that we are part of and that we slowly learn the works and we teach one another what it means to receive the Shekhinah, what it means to be extra righteous and as holy as possible, that we are vessels, we can be vessels that Hashem would want to dwell within us. If it comes bedin, that means forced upon us, which is very difficult. Because that means that Hashem decides that's it, time has come to return, which is beautiful, but if we're not ready yet, not prepared yet, then it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be by war, by bloodshed, by terrible things. We find that all over the Nevi'im, all over the prophets. They all tell us. Gog and Magog. That's when Hashem decides that's it. Time has come. You haven't prepared yourself enough. You haven't strived to grow spiritually and to be more and more perfect as possible. So I'll show you the way. It could be very difficult. So we pray, And it's going to go, and we're going to read this over and over again. For example, ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים. We're always asking, ברחמים, ברחמים, ברחמים. We say in Birkas Hamazon, ברוך אתה השם, בונה ורחמיו ירושלים. Amen. בונה ורחמיו ירושלים. Although the Gra took out the word berachamav in Bnei Yerushalayim, Bnei Yerushalayim, amen, because he said it's anyway going to be built no matter what, whether it's berachamim or bedim. So when you say the last words of the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, that's already something that's going to be no matter what. It's not a request. It's the way it's done. Like here, we don't say Boneh Verachamav Yerushalayim in this bracha. Baruch Atah Hashem, Boneh Yerushalayim. So when we say Baruch Atah Hashem, it's something that it must be. Boneh Yerushalayim. Anyway, Rachamim or Din, it doesn't matter. It has to happen. So why by Birkas Hamazon do we add the word Berachamav after Baruch Atah Hashem? Bela, if you say Uvnei Yerushalayim, when you're asking, requesting, then you can add the word Berachamim. We ask that it should be in a merciful way. But Baruch Atah Hashem is already a conclusion. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in any case, this way or that. They took away the word Berachamav. Makes a lot of sense. But we all say it, so keep it in. We don't follow the Gra, most of us. We do say Boneh Berachamav Yerushalayim. But as a request, we definitely are asking for it to be Berachamim. And the idea of the Shekhinah returning back to our homeland, to Yerushalayim, means something amazing, that when the Jews left Israel or left Jerusalem, the Shekhinah left along with them. Hashem is always with us, wherever we are. So that's part of his mercifulness, that he takes care of us wherever we are. And that's why if we're in Galus, Shekhinah begalut. There's a term like that in the Kabbalistic books. Shechinta begaluta, the Shekhinah is in Galut. And the pain that we have being in Galus, hopefully people should feel that pain, but the pain we have living in Galus is the pain the Shekhinah has as well. It's as if, sort of speaking, painful for Hashem to be in Galut. And when it says in the Psukim of Nitzavim, Parshas Nitzavim in the end of the Torah, when it says that we return to our homeland, so it says there, V'shav Hashem Elokecha et shvutcha v'richabecha. Says, say Chazal, V'yishiv lo ne'emar, ela v'shav. Not only will Hashem allow us to return, Hashem himself will return. V'shav Hashem Elokecha et shvutcha. Not V'yishiv, not just bringing us back. It's V'shav Hashem Elokecha. He himself, sort of speaking, will return to the homeland when we are redeemed. So that's part of Yerushalayim. Yecha berachamim tashuv. You yourself, Hashem, you yourself, the Shekhinah itself, should return to Yerushalayim. And one last point before we go to our brachos. Yerushalayim is in plural tense, right? Yadayim, raglayim, einayim, oznaim, Yerushalayim. Two, plural tense. Not only is it plural, but it's like a twin. It's like a twin situation. Einayim is two exactly identical eyes. Yadayim is identical hands. Raglayim identical legs. Oznaim identical ears. So it's something identical, like a twins to one another. That's the plural tense of ayim instead of yim. Like if you say shulchanot, kisot, galgalim, all kinds of things, you say just yim or ot, depending masculine and feminine. But that just means that there are many. They don't have to be identical. But if it's true, a couple, they're identical, so the plural tense is ayim instead of yim. So we don't say yadim, raglim, einim, oznim. That's how it should have been if it just would have been a regular plural tense word. when we say Yadayim, Raglayim, because it's a couple identical. So Yerushalayim means it's one of the two identical cities of Yerushalayim. It's not Los Angeles or or Berlin. The identical city to Yerushalayim is Yerushalayim Shel Mala. Is Yerushalayim Shel Mala and Yerushalayim Shel Mata, two identical cities. In what way? That up in heaven, there is a spiritual Yerushalayim, is there, which exists, and when the Yerushalayim Shel Mata, our Jerusalem that we live in, was destroyed, Yerushalayim Shel Mala also. Hashem left it in heaven, got ruined. It says, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu nichnas liYerushalayim Shel Mala ad shechnasim banav liYerushalayim Shel Mata. Hashem will not return to Yerushalayim Shel Mala, to the holy heavenly Jerusalem, until we return to Yerushalayim Shel Mata, to the city of Yerushalayim. Oh yeah, he sings that? Sings that line? Wow. Okay, so that's what it's up to us. So really, we're asking of Hashem to return to Yerushalayim. That means identically the one here and the one up in heaven, but it all depends on us. We can't just ask of Hashem to come back. We need to do the first step. We do the first step and return to Yerushalayim. And not only physically, again, not just to buy apartments and live there, but spiritually as well. We live a spiritual, holy life, religious life in Yerushalayim. Then Hashem can return back, firstly to Yerushalayim Shel Mala, and that will create holiness to Yerushalayim Shel Mala. That will bring the Shekhinah back to Yerushalayim Shel Mala. And then we continue on speaking in this bracha of many developments of this type of redemption of Yerushalayim. That we'll do next week. Okay. What's that? Yes. Yes. It's recording. Yeah. Being recorded. Okay. So for brachos, we're in the middle of the chapter of Siman Reshut Gimel, which is a chapter. If you're allowed, how and when does one motzi someone else in the bracha? So last week we discussed the fact that on one hand, it's a little bit two-way road here. On one hand, it should have been better that we say one bracha for all. Let's say 2 people, 10 people, 15 people are now about to eat any type of food. We're not talking about kiddush per se or a motzi on Shabbos. During the week, we're about to sit down for a meal. It should have been best that one says a bracha for all, and they're all eating the same bracha type food. It doesn't have to be the same food, but if they're all eating mizonos, they're all eating ha'etz, they're all eating ha'adam, they're all eating shehakol, one says the bracha and all are yotzi by him. Why is that better? Berovam hadrat melech. It's best if we bless Hashem as a group of people, so we're glorifying the king in plural, as a group, which is more glorifying than individually. Lemaisa, actually, we don't do that. We don't find that at the beginning of every meal, someone says, I'll say a bracha out loud, you all listen, say amen, and then eat. We don't do that. We each say the bracha personally for each and every food we're about to eat. So why don't we do it that way? Except for Kiddush, Havdalah, Hamotzi, for Lechem Mishnah and Shabbat. Very rarely do we act upon that we do Berov Amadat Melech, and one does it for all. Why is it so? Because there's need for 2 things to be Yotze by someone else saying the bracha for you. One is Kavanat Motzi v'Kavanat Yotze. You need the intention to be Yotze by the bracha, and the person saying the bracha to Motzi others. You need a double intention here. And if you just listen to the bracha, that's not enough. And people aren't aware of this halacha that you have to have in mind to be yotzi by someone else. That's why it's a good reminder to say to people before Kiddush, I'll be motzi everyone now. Remind the people. Right. You can say that too, but it's best if they agree because then it's Merov Amadat Melech. We gain the Merov Av that way. Right. By saying, do you want me to be motzi you? Then they understand they have to say yes, and they have to have in mind to be yotzi. You could say that the mere fact that they're sitting all together about to eat and someone says a bracha out loud, that means they want to be yotzi. But that's enough if brachos say non tzchos kavana. If brachos tzchos kavana, then it's best to have clear, direct intention to be yotzi. And for the person to be yotzi. That's one thing. And second reason why it's not so simple to do it that way is because the person listening to the bracha has to hear every single word. You see every single word carefully. If your mind drifts to something else, even during a short bracha of Shakol Niyabid Faro, Baruch Atah Hashem, but during that bracha, for a split second, you weren't paying attention. You missed a word. You're not yotzi the bracha. When you say it on your own, no, when you say it yourself, even if you're not paying attention to what you're saying, but you're still saying the words. Unless you skipped the word. You're right. If you skip the word by not saying it, then you're no bracha. Bad bracha, you have to say it again. But it's easier not to pay attention. It could more easily happen. You don't pay attention to every word that's being said than to skip a word while you're saying it yourself. So that's why, in the end, the custom is for each and every person to say their bracha alone, themselves, for all the brikos and enim that we have, except for those seldom cases where we do congregate around the table and we all listen to one person saying the bracha. That's like Kiddush, Abdallah, Motzi, in those situations. Right. Correct. It could have worked easily. Right. Yeah, I think also it's more of a hassle for Kiddush and Havdalah and Motzi to say each one separately, because then each one would need a gavia of wine in front of them to say the bracha over a revius of wine or grape juice. Each one would need 2 challahs, 2 rolls to say the Motzi, so it's more convenient for one to say for all. Whereas if it's just for eating now, we're all eating now the same types of foods, so why not say it each one separately and not get into all these complications of yatsa, motzi, and all that? Right. You could think that's better, but since we have all these complications, so we prefer not. So by Kiddush, we have technical complications, so we prefer that over that. So yeah, it's not so simple to understand the difference, but that's how it is. Right. Would you like to make your own Kiddush? Right. Best to say, no, I want to be yotzi. Yeah. I want to be yotzi by the balabait. Right. Yeah. That prefer doing it themselves. They're very stubborn. They make themselves. Okay. So they don't understand the importance of Merov Amadat Melech. It's okay. Let them be. It's not so terrible. But you should opt. I would say it a different way. Instead of offering, would like you make your own Kiddush, like Jordy said before, would you like me to be motzi? That's more like saying, better say yes than just offering, would you like to make your own Kiddush? Because the person tends to say yes. So if he says yes, when you ask him, do you want me to be motzi you? That's better than saying yes on the question, do you want to do your own? It's a different way of wording it. Yeah. Okay. And then they feel terribly uncomfortable because the balabait, right. So they would say, why? What should be done? Yeah. Okay, this way or that, it's okay. Both ways are okay. It's not terrible this way or that. It's just customary that by Kiddush we're yotze by one, and by the rest of by regular brachos during the week, we say it all personally. Okay, so that was all. And another addition to that was that by Brikas Hanenin, which is the brachas over food or drink, it must be that the person saying the bracha out loud, if you are motzi someone else, you yourself are eating or drinking something. It doesn't have to be the same food as the other person, but the same bracha. The same bracha. Because if you're not eating or drinking yourself, you can't be motzi someone else. Because there's no obligation to eat or drink. If it's not kiddush or challah. Right. So the Abdullah part you could say for someone else, but the Berei Pragafin part you have to be drinking. So here too, if you want to say Shakol Yabidvar for someone else, you can't just say it for someone and they say Amen and eat, and you don't eat anything. You can't do that because how come we can be moti someone in every bracha or any mitzvah that can be done for someone else? Because we have an obligation that someone else should fulfill the mitzvah. It's called arivut. Kol Yisrael arivim ze lazeh. We're obligated that all Jews will fulfill mitzvot. But that's only if it's a positive aseh, mitzvot aseh. So if it's, for example, Birkat mitzvot, let's say a person was already yotzei a certain mitzvah. Let's say they heard Megillah already. They heard Megillah Esther already once. And now they want to learn for someone else. For them, yeah. Oh, so it's best if someone else makes the bracha who hasn't heard the learning yet. But if there's no one that can make the bracha, the person learning it can say the bracha for the rest of the people. Why? He's heard it already. He's learning it just for them. It's not for him. It's no longer a mitzvah because they're obligated to hear the Megillah. And since they're obligated, they have to say a bracha. And therefore, one can say the bracha for someone else, even if they don't need to do the mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah for them, but you can say a bracha for someone else because they're obligated to hear the mitzvah, to fulfill that mitzvah and to make the bracha over it. So that's called Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Lazeh. I have a chrayus, I have responsibility for someone else to fulfill the mitzvah. So for that reason, you could say the bracha even though you're not fulfilling the mitzvah. Or let's say a person has put on tefillin already in the morning. Now he's going to help some elderly person, a sickly person, to put on tefillin for them. So he can't put the tefillin on himself for someone else. That doesn't work. You have to put the tefillin on that person. But he can say the bracha for that person. The person will just listen, say amen, and that's fine. Even though the person laying the tefillin for someone else is not putting on tefillin himself. He's done it already in the morning. It's better for the reason that we said before, only for that reason, that you may not concentrate fully on every word, or you may not know the idea of kavanah to be yotze and kavanah to be motzi. That's the main reason why it's better. But otherwise, perfectly fine to say the bracha of someone else. Right, but besides that, you're right. There's also another point that mitzvah bo'eter b'shlucho. In anything a person does, it's best to do it yourself. Mitzvah bo'eter b'shlucho. Any mitzvah you want to carry out, or bracha you want to say, best if you say it alone. Now, we had the idea of berov hamadat melech, which overrides the mitzvah bo'eter b'shlucho. It's better to say one for all, but that's only if we're all participating in the mitzvah. Now that you say it for someone else, it's not berovam, it's for one person. That one person, best if he says it himself. But sometimes he's too sick, he's too he can't concentrate now, right? So you could say it for them. Yeah. No. So that you can't say the bracha then. You can't say the bracha for them then. No. If they're unconscious, even the tefillin really they're not fulfilling the mitzvah that way. If they're unconscious and you just put the tefillin on them, it's just for a segula. It's like a segula that maybe that will make them better. But it's not really they're not performing the mitzvah that way. They have to have full intent and kavanah when to do the mitzvah. Here they're unconscious. So it's really not fulfilling the mitzvah at all. Definitely no bracha. Maybe that's right. Right. That's for them to feel better, right? Okay, now we have a surprising, this question was asked at the very end of last week by Yehuda. He was actually listening to the last few minutes of the shir. So he asked this question last week, and we said we'll discuss it within this chapter, so now we're getting to it. After all that we've said, how about Bracha Achrona? This was all for Bracha Rishona. Shehakol, La'etz, Adama, Mezonos, Hamotzi, all that. Gefen. But what about Bracha Achrona? B'rei Nefashos, Halamichya, Brikas Hamazon. Can those be said one for all? Can we say that out loud and everyone else be Yotze? So we do it in practice. That's a unit. Exactly. Sarah said that's what he does all the time. He says after they finish eating something of the meal of the Mezonos or Shak or whatever, so he says, I'll say the bracha out loud. Everyone, please listen. Say Amen. He's Yotzi. He's being Motzi, everyone. The surprise is that it's not so simple. It's not as simple as it would have been to say the first bracha for all. That's much easier. That's much more acceptable according to Allah. The bracha, the after bracha is much more uncertain that can be done one for all. How come? What's the difference? Besides the length of the bracha, which again complicates issues because you have to concentrate on every word, and there it's more possible that you drift off and all that. But let's say, the B'rei Nefashos is quite short. Halamichya is so. Because the Muslim forget about it. You have to say it yourself, because if you just listen to someone saying it, you'll definitely drift off at some point. Since you know it all, it's quote unquote maybe boring, so you start thinking of other things. But the shorter ones, why not? So besides that, the bigger issue is that in order for one to be motzi someone else, you have to be in a position that besides being kavan of yotzi and motzi and all that, you have to be in a position that you're together. Togetherness, something that unites everyone in order to be motzi. That's a condition. That's a condition within the possibility to motzi someone else. That's why we said, preferably, every bracha that you like to say for someone else in Brikas Hanenin should be seated. We know the Kiddush is not done seated in many homes. We stand, but that's because it's connected to Brikas HaMitzvos and has to be standing up. But if you just say Shehakol for someone else, we said it can work. It can be done, but providing we're all seated. Or a Mazonos, or a Eitz, or a Adama, don't stand and say a bracha. That doesn't show kviut, that you're all together at this session of eating and you're all prepared to listen to one bracha. It looks like you're walking around and just by coincidence hearing a bracha from someone if you're all standing. Not something that makes it all like a keva, like a situation of all together prepared for hearing the bracha from someone else. Right, so b'diavad it works standing, b'diavad it works, but lechatchila, halacha is you should be seated. Should be seated because that makes more of a kviut suda that way. Who eats standing up? Most people don't eat standing up. No, so say besides Kiddush because that's Brikas HaMitzvah. Oh, at a Kiddush, we're all standing up. That's it. You're right. You're right about that. That's why it's even more complicated to allow for one to say bracha for all. It's only b'diavad. People are standing and hearing the same. So we'll get to the point where why that's okay in a minute. But firstly, let's learn the lechatchila way. The lechatchila way is that people have to be seated to be yotze from someone else. And altogether, Bracha Achrona is more complicated than Rishona. How come? Because by Bracha Rishona, you're preparing to eat now. So there's kviut seuda now to come and eat together so you can hear the bracha from someone else. Bracha Achrona is the opposite. You're preparing to leave. You're preparing to scatter each one to their home. You're about to leave the seuda now and go each one to their way. So there isn't something that's so connecting and bonding between the people sitting down now even sitting down, let alone standing, but even sitting down, it's about to break apart instead of coming together. So the Shulchan Aruch, it's a Mefarish Shulchan Aruch. This isn't a Chumrah of one of the Achronim. It's a Mefarish Shulchan Aruch. In our Siman, Reish Yud Gimel, Shulchan Aruch says, all that I've said, the bracha can be said by someone else, providing they have eaten them, they're about to eat themselves and all that. That's a bracha rishona. But bracha achrona, kol echad yivarech leatzmo. He doesn't allow to be motzi someone else a bracha achrona. So before Shulchan Aruch, it's not a chumrah of one of the achronim. So you're asking a good question. How come it's done? So many places. Exactly. That's the only reason. Actually, it's one of the two reasons that can be done. A, you're afraid that people may not make their own bracha achrona. Even if you announce, please all be seated and say bracha achrona, still, it may mean, it may not be done. People may not know the bracha by heart, and they're shy to say so, and they'll just forget about it and just go without the bracha, or they'll mumble something and it's not going to be a full bracha. It's even worse, because they're saying a bracha batala. They're saying Hashem's name without the full nusach, the full wording of the bracha. Or another situation that we should be saying bracha one for all is a situation where we're not certain, people aren't certain that they should be saying a bracha one. Maybe they didn't have kazait within 4 minutes. Maybe they didn't have kadei revis of drink within 3 gulps. There are certain conditions when a bracha should be said. We've gone through this in previous classes. So due to the fact that it's uncertain for some people, should they be saying a bracha or not, suffix bracha or not, so in doubt, leave out. But if you have someone that definitely needs to say a bracha or not, best if he says it out loud and be motzi everyone else. So those are the two reasons. No, if you yourself, the one saying the bracha had enough. He's fine. Yotzi from him. Yeah. Good point. Excellent. Jordy is asking, what about if a person, the one listening, and wants to be yotze from the person who's being motzi, if he's not certain or she's not certain they need to say the bracha achrona, is it a bracha of atala just to hear the bracha from someone else and to be shomea ke'ona? So that's an amazing question, because it depends. What does shomea ke'ona mean? Is it as if literally, as if I've said every word of the bracha myself? Or is it just that it works for me? But not as if I've said the words of the bracha. That's a dispute between Rashi and Tosfos in the Gemara, in believing Kiddushin. They argue, what is shomea ke'ona? Is it that it's as if I'm saying the words, verbalizing them amash, or just being yotze by someone else saying it for me? If it's as if I'm saying the words, then there could be an idea of bracha levatala, even just by listening to someone's bracha when it's not necessary for me to say it, because I may not have eaten enough. Yeah. No, that's always true. You're right about that too. Shomea ke'oneh. All the poskim derive from this language of Chazal. Shomea ke'oneh, that it's just like you've said it, but it's not really so. So that's a reason why you should be saying it yourself. But we said overriding that is berov avodat melech. So we're always weighing between different accomplishments that we may accomplish by listening to someone or saying it on our own. So it's definitely not the same level to listen to a bracha by being said by someone else and be yotze than to say it yourself. Definitely better to say it yourself, except for berov avodat melech, which makes it better to listen to one for one to say one for all. So we're always contemplating between these two issues. In this case, if a person who's suffix, he's not sure whether he should be saying the bracha because he or she may have not eaten enough to require bracha achrona, then it's best and the only way is to listen to someone else who has definitely eaten enough or drank enough to say the bracha achrona. But because of Jordy's point that maybe it's as if you're saying the bracha on your own, and then it's a bracha matala if you don't need to say it. That reason, the halacha says, condition your listening. If I ate enough that I should be saying a bracha achrona, let this be my bracha achrona when I listen to someone else saying it for me. If I hadn't had enough, then I'm just saying amen because I've heard someone else say a bracha. If you say amen for a person who's saying very prayers on an apple and you're not eating, that's not a bracha batala. You're not having the kavana. There's no kavana in your mind to be yotze by someone else. You're just hearing a bracha. So you're just at that point you're just saying amen as a bracha being said by someone else. So if you condition your hearing the bracha, when you're in a case where you're not sure you should be hearing a bracha, then you're fine. There's no bracha batala. You say, if I do need to hear this bracha and I do need to say it, so I'm being yotze by this person saying it for me. And if I don't need to say a bracha achrona, so I'm just saying amen, as we all do when we hear a bracha being said by someone else, we say amen. We acknowledge the fact that Hashem created this for us without being it necessary for ourselves to say the bracha on our own. Okay, so I guess we'll stop at this. So we see the bracha achrona is a much more problematic situation, I would say, to hear the bracha from someone else. Bracha achrona should definitely be said by each and every one individually, providing they're sure that they should be saying a bracha achrona. They're not sure, then they have to hear it from someone else. And therefore, in all these cases where one announces, I will say bracha achrona for all, it's only good to cover those who aren't sure they had enough, or to cover those who don't know how to say the bracha on their own, or may forget to say the bracha. This way you remind everyone, and you make sure they're all yotzei, so you say it out loud. It can work, but it's best if people say it on their own. If you're sitting at home and everyone knows the bracha, then it's definitely best for each one to say bracha achrona themselves. Even if you would rule that it's better to say bracha rishona one for all, it's still best to say bracha achrona each one individually. That's definitely the better way to go about it. Okay.
Thank you very much, Shavua Tov.
Okay, very welcome. Shavua Tov.
Thank you. Shavua Tov.
Bye-bye. Very welcome. Bye-bye. Shavua Tov.